Oxfam has a new report out today, and it is fairly devastating about income inequality both here in America and across the world. Let me go right to that report. The world's richest 1% raked in 82% of the wealth created last year, according to a new report by poverty-fighting nonprofit Oxfam. 1% got 82% of the wealth created last year. But then they'll turn around and go, what, the stock market's up? Oh, the markets are doing great. Are you getting it? No, the top 1% is getting almost all of it. But then they make it seem like, well, you should be happy. Maybe it'll trickle down to you. Well, let's find out if that happened. Just 42 people now hold as much wealth as the poorest 3.7 billion people, the organization said. So that's just 42 people with the same amount of wealth as half of the world's population. Amazing. In America, it's actually worse. The country's 3 richest people in the US have the same wealth as the poorest half of the American population. Just 3 people. Bill Gates, Jeff Bezos, Warren Buffett have as much money as 50% of the population in America. That is over 165 million people, equal to just 3 people. Gee, I wonder if we have income inequality. Or maybe it's trickled down to us. Does it look like it's trickled down? Okay. Billionaire wealth has risen by an annual average of 13% since 2010, while the average worker's wages has risen an average of 2%. Wait, I thought it was supposed to all come down to us. It looks like you guys kept most of it. The billionaires get 13%. That's 6.5 times the rate of wage increase that you got. Okay, it gets worse. While billionaire income was booming last year, the poorest half of the world saw no increase in wealth. So overall, wages went up just 2%. That includes the rich, okay? When you look at the bottom half, it didn't go up at all, at all. What happened to trickle down? Nowhere, okay? The Oxfam report, which is based on data from Forbes, an annual Credit Suisse Global Wealth Datebook, blamed the wealth gap on tax evasion, corporations increasing influence on policy, erosion of workers' rights, and cost cutting. This is what I tell you all the time. It isn't an accident. It isn't what naturally happens. They rig the rules in their favor. And part of that is lowering taxes on corporations like they just did, lowering taxes on the rich like they just did. Part of that is never raising the minimum wage. Minimum wage nationally is still $7.25. That gets you $15,000 a year if you work all year. $15,000 a year. And then you go, well, this wealth inequality just came out of nowhere. I guess there's nothing you can do about it. Of course there's something you can do about it. By the way, defunding the IRS, attacking them with fake scandals so that the rich can get away with tax evasion, which also leads to income inequality. All of these are coordinated and they lead to a macro result that is shocking. Now I want to show you something that Oxfam didn't show in their report. I talk about this from time to time on the show, and this is what you really have to absorb and how I think this is the crux of the matter here. Let's show you a chart where you see productivity and wages from 1948 to 2013. See, productivity is sky high and continues to rise. Congratulations, American workers, you have done a fantastic job, up 243% in that time period. Hourly compensation going right along with you guys until the 1970s. And then it flatlines. So hourly compensation since 1973 has only gone up 9.2%, whereas productivity has gone up nearly 75%. So they took most of that productivity and they kept it for themselves. You worked for it and you didn't get it. You know how much? This is an amazing fact. The difference on average between those two charts, those two lines on that chart, is for the average American worker, over $17,000. So if you go to the next chart, you'll see it, okay? So $17,867 is what you would have made more if wages had just kept up with productivity. If you had just gotten the fruits of your labor, on average, you'd be making more than $17,000 more than what you make today. And they took that from you year after year after year by rigging the rules to their benefit. So one of the ways they do it is through the tax code. Let me show you this chart. Back in 1952, corporations paid 32% of all taxes. In 2015, that dropped to under 11%, so cut by about a third. Now it's going to be cut even more than that, because that does not include the Trump tax cuts, which cut corporate taxes to the bone, even less. Social insurance and retirement used to be 9.7%. That's the payroll tax. The rich don't even pay it after a certain point. So that is the most regressive tax we have. That's the one that hits the middle class the hardest. So what happened to that? That rose to 33.5% of all taxes being paid in 2015. Now it'll be even higher. You know what they just did? Through those laws, they shifted the burden, the tax burden, onto you and away from corporations and the rich. So it is not surprising that the money did not go down. It went up to billionaires and millionaires, and the bottom half got nothing at all, and everyone else got a 2% increase over the span of 40 years, just a 9% increase. They took so much money out of all of our pockets. That's why we have the inequality that we have. So, final stat for you guys. There are now 2,043 billionaires worldwide, okay? 2,043. In 12 months, the wealth of this elite group of 2,043 has increased by $762 billion. That's just in 12 months. That's enough to end extreme poverty 7 times over. See, taxes do make a world of difference. If all you did was tax the billionaires in the world just 1/7 of their gains from just this last year, you could erase poverty worldwide. Now that sounds ambitious, but there are stats that back that up as to how you could deliver food and the process by which, and then they calculated those numbers. So you might say those numbers might not be perfect and you might have some arguments around the edges. Fine, bring it up to 1/6 of what the billionaires earn. If you had that one tax, you could erase poverty. Nope, that tax does not exist. In fact, taxes on billionaires just went even lower under Trump. Wealth inequality is not an accident. It's not the bug, it's the feature. This is exactly why they put money into politics, so they could buy our politicians and rig the rules on their behalf. And they have, and they've gotten spectacular results out of it. And what we've gotten is the great American robbery. You just watched the video by the Young Turks, home of the revolution. If you'd like to get a lot more than that, get the full show by becoming a member. tytnetwork.com/join.